WWE talent are upset with a new Backstage hiring. Plus, there was a major AEW return on Dynamite Homecoming last night, and we have some new details on an incident between Chris Jericho and a WWE star. New year, new me, Andrew.
Yes.
New year, new Lee.
Oh my God.
Lee Fitting, how fitting. The guy who is stepping in for the now done Kevin Dunn. Behind the scenes in WWE, Lee Fitting from ESPN is the new head of media and production. PW Insider have some details on the reaction to his arrival. They say there were some not thrilled that an outsider would now be above them, and some were worried that Lee Fitting's hiring meant he would bring in his own people at the expense of tenured WWE staffers. This is always the case when someone new comes into any role, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, for sure.
They'll mix it up and bring in people that they trust. Some are taking the stance of waiting to see what happens before they worry. There were others dismayed that the company didn't promote from within, pointing out that Executive Vice President of Television Chris Kaiser deserved consideration, and that the company has another valuable resource in Jason Robinson, who is the lighting and set director. I think we've both been in situations like that where we've seen people coming in above us and going, well, where's my looking?
Yeah, no, and it's absolutely, I think that frustration is valid as well, because, you know, if you've been there for a long time and you've worked really, really hard, then it does feel like kind of like a blow almost in that sense. However, maybe with everything that's happened, obviously, you know, we've got the TKO stuff, the Endeavor stuff, maybe they're going or looking at going into a specific direction with the presentation of WWE.
And you're absolutely on the money there, because PW Insider goes on to say another source noted that the hiring of Fitting, someone from the sports world, shouldn't be seen as a shock, because TKO's Mark Shapiro once oversaw ESPN, where Fitting worked for many years. And with Kevin Dunn gone, PW Insider reports that TKO could indeed place someone who would more be in line with their vision. So it's obviously what they want to do, as well as their cost-cutting measures. Mandates rather. They felt that the hiring fell in line with Shapiro and Nick Khan's sensibilities coming from the sports world. So it suggests to me that this is the first big change in the new world order, not that one, of WWE. Now it's run by TKO.
Yeah, and I believe when I was looking at some of the things that Lee Fitting had done before in the past as well, it was very much sports based. I think it was like Monday Night Football,
college
and all
game day.
So I wonder if that does, you know, make its way into the product of WWE, some more sort of sports centric kind of things. Maybe the draft looks a little bit different, this, that, and the other as well. But yeah, I can see why people who have been perhaps working at WWE for a very long time and think they sort of deserve maybe the next step up from what they're doing at the moment. Now that Kevin Dunn is gone, I can see where the frustration comes from that too.
You certainly can do. Over to Dynamite, AEW presented their homecoming event in Daly's Place. It was a lovely video package for Brody Lee, which I thought was really nice, because you forget that Brody Lee's entire run with AEW was at Daly's Place. It was during the pandemic. He never got that. He never got to do those things in the arenas with the crowds and stuff like that, which is devastating. But you know, what an indelible mark he left on the company, regardless.
Absolutely, and everything about last night, I thought as I was watching through it, I was like, it feels nostalgic almost to go back and see the different camera angles and stuff like that, and just the setting that obviously it takes place in Daly's Place. There was lots of things that happened, however, so a big return, right? So after their Tornado tag match, the Texas Tornado tag match, Sting and Darby Allin spoke to Tony Schiavone in the ring, and Tony asked Sting who he'd be facing in his retirement match at Revolution, as Ric Flair slowly inches closer towards Sting.
It's gonna be me. It's not gonna be you, Rick. Calm down.
However, before Sting or Ric Flair could answer, the Young Bucks music's hit, and Matt and Nick Jackson make their AEW return. Mustaches aplenty. There was quite a few mustaches last night. Like Hangman Page is fair growing in his mustache.
It's the month of the mustache.
It is,
and I think they look quite. JR said they looked fresh, and yeah, they did look quite fresh. We haven't seen them since Full Gear.
Yeah, it's been quite a while, hasn't it?
They had that big tantrum after losing losing their tag opportunity.
Yes, yeah. And they got a big pop as well. I think so.
They're always going to get a big pop at Daly's place.
Yeah, of course they are. And it's not where I thought it would go, you know? I always was sort of maybe under the belief that perhaps Sting and Darby would have one final thing together. But I guess, you know, with his run at the moment, and it's been very much in tag matches, I think that's always a good thing, sort of like, so not everything is pushed onto Sting, and you can kind of like bring him in for big bits and like have him in the back a little bit here and there. Yeah, so it's not what I was expecting at all. How are you feeling about it?
Hang on, I need to check today whether I am pro or anti AEW, whether I'm an apologist or whether I'm anti. And today it's a Thursday, which means I'm anti AEW. I don't like it.
You don't like it?
I don't like it.
Okay.
I don't think it fits the Young Bucks. I don't think it fits Sting to go out in a match with the Young Bucks. I really want, like you said, I want it to be Sting and Darby Allin.
Yeah, for sure.
Really want it to be Sting and Darby Allin.
As we've said before in the news, I felt like maybe we could do something in terms of, you know, you've got how you had Ric Flair and Sting at the Clash of the Champions thing, how that was like a really big moment for Sting that really made him into a superstar. I thought that might have been the same sort of like Sting doing that for Darby.
That'd have been great.
Yeah, but this is what we're getting. I'm quite intrigued to see how it goes down. I'm not going to say I'm not excited for it, because I think it'll be pretty fun, but I can see, again, like the first one, frustrations perhaps with this decision.
I can see it being a match on the road and them having a good time. Oh, it turns out I'm pro AEW again. How did that happen? Just can't make my mind up. It's almost like I don't really have an opinion on the matter. But I could see them four having a great match.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Really having some good fun. I don't want that to be Sting's last match, though. You know, there's still plenty of other matches he can have along the way. Or the tag matches he can have along the way. You know, why not give us, I don't know, off the top of my head, Sting and Darby Allin versus, I don't know, total non-stop arseholes, Jeff Jarrett and his mates. It's, you know, don't. And by the way, you annoyed me yesterday because I very specifically said, don't tweet at real Jeff Jarrett, call your team total non-stop arseholes. You did. So look, promise me today, you won't tweet at real Jeff Jarrett. You should definitely call your faction total non-stop arseholes.
Promise.
Promise me you won't do that today, because he'll get really mad. He'll get well cross, will my best friend Jeffrey. Thanks. Also, from Dynamite, we had our first meeting, our first manifesto for Samoa Joe.
Yeah, so during Homecoming last night, Joe spoke for the first time about changes to the protocol for the World Title contendership, inviting anyone to bring their record and reputation to the championship committee. And upon declaring this, Joe was sized up in the ring by Swerve Strickland, which was so nice to see. But not only was Swerve there, Adam Page popped up, and then finally Hook, the latter gesturing that he wanted to face Joe in just 1 week's time. And later that night, it was revealed that Samoa Joe will defend their AEW World Title against Hook on next Wednesday's Dynamite.
I was kind of hoping that Jinder Mahal would have walked out after Hook. Yeah, so Hook and Joe, they're going to have I think they'll have a banger.
I think they'll have a banger too, and I hope that this is a huge match for Hook in terms of people going like, bloody hell, yes, he did very well deserve this match right here.
Completely so. We'll end on some new details about a story that we ran a few years ago. Now, you may remember that there was a report that did the rounds from the Jericho Cruise, in which Chris Jericho and MVP got into quite a heated altercation that led to Chris Jericho running towards the lift and closing the lift door. It's like Maximum Overdrive, and saying, "I don't fight jobbers." You might remember that from a few years ago. Interestingly, on Cornette's podcast, Brian Last talked very briefly about a story he can't talk about. He said, there is a story I'd love to tell, but I didn't get permission. But him, being Jericho, getting knocked out on his own cruise ship by someone he mouthed off to, it's the most incredible flipping story, but I can't talk about that today. So Cassidy Haynes of bodyslam.net has decided to talk about it instead. He writes, I asked around about the incident on the Jericho cruise, and the sources were able to confirm the story to me, as well as the identity of the person involved. The incident did take place during Chris Jericho's Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea Part 2 second wave back in January of 2020. During the cruise, there was an altercation between Jericho and MVP, where heated words were exchanged that resulted in MVP knocking out Chris Jericho. Now that, and then he goes on to recount the story once again, that another incident took place a year or two after the cruise, this time in a hotel lobby, the one that I just described there, in which Jericho ran to the elevator and said, I don't fight jobbers. I think I got the stories mixed up there. I thought the lift one occurred on the cruise. It didn't. The lift one was a few years later. The cruise one does involve Jericho getting knocked out by MVP.
Wow.
That is according to reports and sources close to Cassidy Haynes of bodyslam.net.
And then MVP rode Jericho's knocked out corpse across the sea, like in that film where someone rides on Daniel Radcliffe's corpse.
Oh, Swiss Army Man.
Yeah. And we all had a fantastic time.
I wasn't expecting this story to end with a throwback to Swiss Army Man, but it has, and it did. And for the latest wrestling news and more throughout the day, you can check out cultaholic.com. First one of the year, shall we?
Yes, absolutely.
Case.
I love you, bye.